In the midst of chaos and destruction, Hellspawn stood tall, his demonic presence radiating power and malice. Before him stood a formidable lineup of some of the most powerful beings in the universe. Doomsday, the unstoppable force from DC Comics, snarled menacingly, his monstrous form ready for battle. SCP-682, the reptilian abomination, his eyes filled with a primal hunger for destruction, his scales gleaming in the dim light. Broly, the Saiyan warrior from Dragon Ball, his muscles bulging with raw power, a fierce grin on his face. Lobo, the intergalactic bounty hunter, his cigar clenched between his teeth, his eyes filled with a savage glee. Superman, the man of steel, his cape billowing in the wind, his eyes narrowed in determination. Goku, the Saiyan warrior, his aura blazing with energy, his fists clenched in anticipation. The Hulk, the green behemoth, his rage simmering just beneath the surface, his muscles tense for battle. Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance, his flaming skull casting an eerie glow, his chain whip crackling with dark energy. And Saitama, the one-punch man, his bald head gleaming in the light, his eyes filled with a bored indifference. As Hellspawn prepared to face off against these formidable opponents, a wicked grin spread across his face. He knew that he was outmatched in terms of raw power, but he also knew that he possessed something that none of them did, the powers of hell itself. With a flick of his wrist, Hellspawn summoned a wave of hellfire, engulfing his opponents in a searing inferno. Doomsday roared in pain, SCP-682 hissed in anger, Broly gritted his teeth in defiance. But Hellspawn was relentless, his attacks unrelenting as he unleashed a barrage of demonic energy upon his foes. As the battle raged on, Hellspawn's fighting style became apparent, brutal, savage, and utterly ruthless. He moved with a fluid grace, his movements a deadly dance of death. His hellish powers were a force to be reckoned with, as he summoned demons from the depths of hell to aid him in battle. His demonic abilities were as he tore through his opponents with ease, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. But it was not just Hellspawn's powers that made him a formidable opponent. It was his battle intelligence, his strategic mind that allowed him to outmaneuver his foes at every turn. He knew their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities, and he exploited them to his advantage. He taunted them, mocked them, called them punks as he continued to hold his own against the onslaught of attacks. As the battle reached its climax, Hellspawn stood victorious, his opponents lying defeated at his feet. He had proven himself to be a force to be reckoned with, a warrior without equal. And as he stood amidst the wreckage, a wicked smile on his face, Hellspawn knew that he had earned his place among the greatest fighters in the universe. For he was Hellspawn, the spawn of hell itself, and he would not be defeated. In the midst of chaos and destruction, Hellspawn stood tall, his demonic presence radiating power and malice. Before him stood a formidable lineup of some of the most powerful beings in the universe. Doomsday, the unstoppable force of destruction from DC Comics, snarled menacingly, his bony spikes gleaming in the dim light. SCP-682, the reptilian monstrosity known for its unkillable nature, hissed and slithered, ready to unleash its wrath. Broly, the Saiyan warrior with unmatched strength and ferocity, cracked his knuckles in anticipation of the battle to come. Lobo, the intergalactic bounty hunter with a penchant for violence, grinned wickedly as he revved up his chainsaw. Superman, the man of steel, floated in the air with a look of determination on his face. Goku, the Saiyan warrior from Earth, powered up his energy, ready to unleash his full potential. The Hulk, the green behemoth with limitless strength, growled and pounded his fists together. Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance, revved his flaming motorcycle, his skull ablaze with hellfire. And Saitama, the one-punch man, stood calmly, his expression unreadable. As the battle began, Hellspawn moved with a grace and agility that belied his demonic nature. His movements were fluid and precise, his strikes landing with deadly accuracy. He used his hellish powers to summon dark energy and unleash devastating attacks on his opponents. Doomsday roared in anger as he felt the sting of Hellspawn's attacks, his tough hide cracking under the onslaught. SCP-682 thrashed and writhed, unable to escape Hellspawn's grasp. Broly, usually a force to be reckoned with, found himself struggling to keep up with Hellspawn's speed and skill. Lobo, known for his brutal tactics, found himself outmatched by Hellspawn's cunning and strategy. Superman, usually invincible, felt the burn of Hellspawn's hellfire as it seared through his defenses. Goku, the Saiyan warrior, found himself pushed to his limits as he faced off against Hellspawn's relentless assault. The Hulk, usually unstoppable in his rage, found himself unable to match Hellspawn's sheer power. Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance, found himself facing a foe who was just as relentless and determined as he was. And Saitama, the one-punch man, found himself intrigued by the challenge Hellspawn presented. As the battle raged on, Hellspawn's foul words and languages echoed through the battlefield, taunting his opponents and calling them punks. His confidence never wavered, his determination unwavering. He fought with a ferocity and intensity that surprised even his most formidable opponents. And as the dust settled and the smoke cleared, Hellspawn stood victorious, his demonic form bathed in the blood of his fallen foes. The world watched in awe as Hellspawn emerged as the ultimate champion, a force to be reckoned with, a being of unmatched power and skill. And as he stood triumphant, his eyes glowed with a hellish light, his presence a testament to the darkness that lurked within him. Hellspawn had proven himself to be a true warrior, a demon of unparalleled strength and ferocity. And as he looked out at the world before him, he knew that his reign of terror had only just begun. In the midst of chaos and destruction, Hellspawn stood tall, his demonic presence radiating power and malice. Before him stood a formidable lineup of some of the most powerful beings in the universe. Doomsday, the unstoppable force of destruction from DC Comics, snarled menacingly as he prepared to unleash his wrath. SCP-682, the reptilian monstrosity known for its resilience and ferocity, hissed in anticipation of the battle to come. Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan from Dragon Ball, crackled with energy as he eyed his opponents with a fierce determination. Lobo, the intergalactic bounty hunter with a penchant for violence, grinned wickedly as he readied his weapons. Superman, the man of steel, stood stoically, his eyes burning with determination. Goku, the Saiyan warrior with a heart of gold, flexed his muscles in preparation for the fight. The Hulk, the green behemoth with limitless strength, roared in anticipation of the battle ahead. Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance, revved his fiery motorcycle as he prepared to unleash hell upon his enemies. And Saitama, the one-punch man, stood calmly, his expression unreadable as he awaited the challenge. Hellspawn chuckled darkly, his eyes glowing with infernal power. You punks think you can take me down? You're in for a rude awakening, he snarled, his voice dripping with contempt. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned his hellish powers, unleashing a wave of dark energy that engulfed his opponents in a maelstrom of chaos. As the battle raged on, Hellspawn proved to be a formidable opponent, his fighting skills and demonic abilities unmatched. He moved with a grace and precision that belied his demonic nature, dodging blows and striking back with deadly accuracy. His hellfire burned hot and bright, scorching his enemies and leaving them reeling in pain. But the brutes were not so easily defeated. Doomsday's strength was unmatched, his blows landing with bone-crushing force. SCP-682's resilience seemed endless, shrugging off attacks as if they were nothing. Raleigh's power was overwhelming, his energy blasts tearing through the battlefield with devastating force. Lobo's arsenal of weapons was relentless, his attacks coming from all angles. Superman's speed and strength were unmatched, his blows landing with the force of a freight train. Goku's martial arts prowess was unmatched, his attacks coming with blinding speed. The Hulk's rage was unending, his strength growing with each passing moment. Ghost Rider's hellfire burned hot and bright, his attacks leaving trails of destruction in their wake. And Saitama's one punch was all it took to send his enemies flying. As the battle raged on, the ground shook with the force of their blows, the sky darkening with the smoke and debris of their conflict. Hellspawn fought with a ferocity and determination that surprised even himself, his demonic powers pushed to their limits. But as the battle reached its climax, it became clear that only one would emerge victorious. In the end, it was Hellspawn who stood triumphant, his enemies defeated and broken at his feet. With a triumphant roar, he raised his arms to the sky, his demonic powers crackling with energy. I am the true king of hell, he declared, his voice echoing with power. And as he stood victorious, a new era of darkness began, with Hellspawn reigning supreme over all who dared to challenge him. In the midst of chaos and destruction, Hellspawn stood tall, his demonic presence radiating power and malice. Before him stood a formidable lineup of some of the most powerful beings in the universe. Doomsday, the unstoppable force from DC Comics, snarled menacingly, his monstrous form ready for battle. SCP-682, the reptilian abomination, his eyes filled with a primal hunger for destruction, his scales gleaming in the dim light. Raleigh, the Saiyan warrior from Dragon Ball, his muscles bulging with raw power, a fierce glint in his eyes. Lobo, the intergalactic bounty hunter, cracked his knuckles with a wicked grin, eager for a fight. Superman, the man of steel, floated in the air with a look of determination on his face. Goku, the Saiyan warrior, his aura blazing with energy, ready to unleash his full power. The Hulk, his massive green form pulsing with rage, his fists clenched in anticipation. Ghost Rider, his flaming skull casting an eerie glow, his chain crackling with dark energy. And Saitama, the one-punch man, his bald head shining in the light, a look of boredom on his face. Hellspawn smirked, his eyes glowing with infernal power. He cracked his knuckles, his demonic armor gleaming in the darkness. You punks think you can take me down? He growled, his voice dripping with contempt. I am Hellspawn, the spawn of hell itself. I am the embodiment of darkness and despair. And I will not be defeated by the likes of you. With a roar, Hellspawn launched himself into battle, his fists flying with deadly precision. He moved with a grace and speed that belied his demonic nature, dodging blows and striking back with ferocity. His hellish powers crackled around him, engulfing his enemies in flames and shadows. The ground shook with the force of their battle, the air filled with the sound of clashing metal and roaring energy. As the battle raged on, Hellspawn proved himself to be a formidable opponent. His fighting skills were unmatched, his hellish powers overwhelming. He held his own against the combined might of his enemies, his demonic strength and battle intelligence proving to be a deadly combination. The brutes he faced were no match for his fury, their attacks barely scratching his armor. With a final, devastating blow, Hellspawn sent his enemies flying, their bodies crashing to the ground in a heap. He stood victorious, his chest heaving with exertion, his eyes blazing with triumph. You thought you could defeat me? He sneered, his voice echoing with power. You thought you could best Hellspawn? Think again, punks. And with that, Hellspawn disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a trail of destruction and chaos. The brutes he had faced lay defeated, their pride shattered by the power of the spawn of hell. And as the dust settled, the world trembled at the thought of what other horrors Hellspawn might unleash upon it in the future. In the midst of chaos and destruction, Hellspawn stood tall, his demonic presence radiating power and malice. Before him stood a formidable lineup of some of the most powerful beings in the universe. Doomsday, the unstoppable force of destruction from DC Comics, snarled menacingly, his red eyes glowing with fury. SCP-682, the reptilian monstrosity known for its indestructible nature, hissed and bared its razor-sharp teeth. Raleigh, the Saiyan warrior with unmatched strength and power, cracked his knuckles in anticipation of the battle to come. Lobo, the intergalactic bounty hunter with a penchant for violence, grinned wickedly as he revved up his chainsaw. Superman, the man of steel, floated in the air with a look of determination on his face. Goku, the Saiyan warrior from Earth, powered up his energy to its maximum level. The Hulk, the green behemoth with limitless strength, growled and pounded his fists together. Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance, revved his flaming motorcycle as he prepared to unleash hellfire upon his enemies. And Saitama, the one-punch man, stood calmly with a blank expression, ready to show his opponents the true extent of his power. As the battle began, Hellspawn moved with a grace and agility that belied his demonic nature. His movements were fluid and precise, his attacks calculated and deadly. He dodged Doomsday's powerful blows with ease, countering with blasts of hellfire that seared the creature's flesh. SCP-682 lunged at him with its massive jaws, but Hellspawn was too quick, slicing through its tough scales with his razor-sharp claws. Raleigh unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, but Hellspawn simply absorbed the energy and redirected it back at him with even greater force. Lobo charged at him with his chainsaw roaring, but Hellspawn disarmed him with a swift kick to the chest. Superman and Goku attacked him from all sides, but Hellspawn held his ground, using his demonic powers to create barriers of darkness that repelled their attacks. The Hulk roared in fury and charged at Hellspawn, but the demon simply smirked and teleported behind him, delivering a devastating blow to the back of his head. Ghost Rider tried to ensnare him with his chains, but Hellspawn broke free with a burst of hellfire that sent the spirit reeling. Saitama finally decided to join the fray, launching a series of punches that seemed to defy the laws of physics. As the battle raged on, Hellspawn's confidence grew. He taunted his opponents, calling them weak and unworthy of his time. He reveled in the chaos and destruction, relishing the opportunity to test his skills against such formidable foes. And as the dust settled and the smoke cleared, Hellspawn stood victorious, his demonic form bathed in the blood of his enemies. But the battle was far from over. As the defeated brutes lay broken and battered at his feet, a new challenger emerged from the shadows. A being of pure darkness and malice, a creature of nightmares and despair. And as Hellspawn prepared to face this new threat, he knew that the true test of his power was yet to come. In the midst of chaos and destruction, Hellspawn stood tall, his demonic presence radiating power and malice. Before him stood a formidable lineup of some of the most powerful beings in the universe. Doomsday, the unstoppable force from DC Comics, snarled menacingly, his monstrous form ready for battle. SCP-682, the reptilian abomination, his eyes filled with a primal hunger for destruction. Raleigh, the Saiyan warrior with unmatched strength and ferocity, his power levels off the charts. Lobo, the intergalactic bounty hunter, his twisted grin promising pain and suffering. Superman, the man of steel, his eyes filled with determination and resolve. Goku, the Saiyan warrior, his energy crackling with power. The Hulk, the green behemoth, his rage boiling just beneath the surface. Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance, his flaming skull casting an eerie glow. And Saitama, the one-punch man, his blank expression belying his incredible strength. As Hellspawn prepared to face off against these formidable opponents, a wicked grin spread across his face. He relished the challenge, the opportunity to test his skills and powers against such powerful adversaries. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned his hellish weapons, the chains of torment wrapping around his arms. With a roar, he charged into battle, his movements fluid and precise. The air crackled with energy as the combatants clashed, each one unleashing their full power in a flurry of blows and attacks. Hellspawn moved with a grace and agility that belied his demonic nature, dodging and weaving through the onslaught of attacks. His hellfire burned bright, scorching his enemies with its unholy flames. As the battle raged on, Hellspawn's confidence grew. He taunted his opponents, calling them weak and pathetic. He mocked their efforts, laughing in the face of their power. With each strike, he proved himself to be a formidable foe, a force to be reckoned with. But the brutes were not so easily defeated. They fought back with a ferocity that matched Hellspawn's own. Doomsday's fists pounded into Hellspawn's flesh, leaving deep gouges in his demonic form. SCP-682's jaws snapped at Hellspawn's heels, threatening to tear him apart. Raleigh's energy blasts scorched the earth around them, the sheer force of his attacks shaking the very ground. But Hellspawn refused to back down. He fought with a tenacity and determination that surprised even himself. His demonic powers surged through him, fueling his every move. With a roar of defiance, he unleashed a wave of hellfire that engulfed his enemies in a blazing inferno. As the smoke cleared, the battlefield lay in ruins. The brutes lay defeated, their bodies broken and battered. Hellspawn stood victorious, his demonic form bathed in the glow of his triumph. He had proven himself against some of the most powerful beings in existence, his skills and powers unmatched. And as he stood there, a wicked smile playing on his lips, Hellspawn knew that he was truly a force to be reckoned with. The brutes may have been powerful, but Hellspawn was something else entirely. He was a demon from the depths of hell, a warrior without equal. And as he looked out at the smoldering wreckage around him, he knew that he was just getting started. The world had not seen the last of Hellspawn, and his reign of terror was only just beginning.